On the westward highway they went. The stadium was in sight. They did all they could to see the Warriors that night. Along with Lucas, the company was 3: Kevin, Alex, and Sigmund Reed. Kevin did not approach his purchases with a gentle touch, often buying a bit too much. His Porsche Cayenne was our majestic pride. He walked with confidence, with arrogant stride. Lucas, the driver, was the smartest of their company. He knew more than any of them, you see. He was a genius, if there ever was one. But when it came to common sense, there was none. Being a dilettante in driving, he probably wasn't the best choice, but he just got his license, so they had to rejoice. Sigmund Rhee, or Keith you might say, knew how to make something funny in every single way. He was quite impulsive, however, acted a bit too soon. Constantly making a fool of himself, he was quite the cartoon. Lastly, Alex, the athletic one of the 4, always had to eat so much more. Bigger in stature, a little older with some stubble, he does everything he can to keep his friends from trouble. The group of 4 had only one goal that day, to see the potency of Steph, Durant, Draymond, and Clay. But with Lucas's driving, something was bound to go wrong. His driving was scary, and he made the journey seem long. In the midst of joyous singing filling the air, a car cut them off, out of nowhere. They collided with the car, and Lucas was overwhelmed with fright, but their only concern was they wouldn't see the Warriors that night. The Porsche was wrecked, but they suffered no harm. However, Kevin wanted to shoot Lucas with his firearm. The car hid and ran, leaving them with nothing, so they had to give the cops a ring. While the cops were coming, they had to pass time, so they decided to tell stories, each saying, "The best will be mine." Keith was the first to tell of his tale. Double-fisting he was, with coffee and ale. The story was unique, none other than his, and it went a little something like this.
There was a man of the royal king, a jester he was, making jokes and things. His only job was to amuse his lord, never had the respect of knights who drew their sword. This jester was considered a royal fool, but he was far from royal, yet his jokes made him cool. One day, his master became so angry with him that he wanted to tear him limb from limb, unless he could tell one more joke, one that would last beyond the lips from which they spoke. He needed one that would conquer all of his others. He had none to rely on, not a single brother. He spent day and night searching for one true gag, one that would save him and just put up the white flag. Alas, one came to him, the one he needed. He brought it before the throne, where the king was seated. "What do you call a wet king?" said the royal fool. "A reigning monarch, don't you see? This joke isn't that cruel." The king didn't like it, and had enough of his childish games. He had decided that this fool at once be put to shame. Immediately, this fool regretted his impetuosity. He never thought twice about this silly joke. Now his fate was soon to be. Because of this decision, to the guillotine he was led, where he said his last prayer, told his last joke, and off went his head. Yeah, and believe it or not, that's how it went down.
A man had just received a gargantuan amount of money in the form of a gift from his honey. He decided he would spend this wealth not on something for his health, but on an authentic pair of resold Yeezys. While spending over $800 on shoes is not easy for most, this man did it with no hesitation. His obsession with style was no simple flirtation. Purchases like this began a new trend, until the man's overspending seemed like it had no end. After shopping exclusively at Supreme, Gucci, and Off-White, the man was filled with delight. His closet was full, but his bank account was quite vacant. All of his friends thought his problem was blatant. However, the man decided that the only way to clean up this mess was to continue to update the style in which he decided to dress. He'd then resell his clothing at a higher price, because his great style multiplied its value twice. If only I could dress like Scott Disick, that would be quite the trick, is what he told himself before he went to bed every night. He probably wishes that he had listened to his fright. Eventually, the man went broke, and his life became a joke. The repo man took all his stuff, even the 24-karat gold hydro flask he constantly polished to keep up to snuff. The only shoes he now owned were a pair of Curry 2s, but they were the kind labeled dad shoes. The moral of the story is not to become so unwise as to overspend so much that you must advertise for the local taqueria as the guy who had to spin street signs on the corner of Llewellyn and Hesperian.
And, I think it's safe to say after all that, I learned my lesson.
Alright, pretty good story. I lie.
Not bad.
But you know what? I actually think mine's better. Yeah.
Let's hear it then.
Alright, well. Everyone knows Lucas Vaughn, the critical and creative thinker, but perhaps his most well-hidden talent is baseball sign picker. He was ready once again, ready to take charge and steal the codes, but on this fateful night, the signs he did not know. The opposing coach did 1 sign, 2 sign, 3 sign, 4. Lucas thought he had them picked for sure. What happened next is one sad sight, for Lucas just could not guess the signs right. Every inning, the Eagles struck out 1, 2, 3. If only he could learn the cryptic signals, what a comeback it would be. But what to my wondering eyes did appear? The coach called on Lucas to bat with great fear. Since Lucas was not able to guess the sign wrong of the box, he hit a walk-off grand slam. He had holes in his socks. What a crazy occurrence of events. The ball flew gracefully over the fence. What a miraculous story this has been. Redwood 4, Athenian 3, the Eagles win.
Alright, cool. That is a story. I like to see the stories at a real place in America called the ball game.
The long-awaited game was nearing its close. The game had been close through the innings, keeping us on our toes. It had always been my dream to witness this event, and up until this point, the trip had proven to be money well spent. This last batter would decide the fate of the game, and would either become a failure or live forever in fame. But alas, at this crucial moment, I felt a slight grumble, a feeling that I knew all too well, a tummy rumble. I had developed a sudden taste for food, and it immediately began to affect my mood. If I didn't satisfy this hunger as soon as I could, I would become infuriated, and that would not be good. But the game had reached its deciding time, and this opportunity came only once in a lifetime. I could not afford to miss the end of this enticing contest, but I knew I had to fulfill the emptiness within my chest. I dashed up the stairs, headed straight for the hot dog stand, and I was back within moments with a bratwurst in my hand. As I laid eyes upon the game once more, I heard the crowd let out a mighty roar. I desperately looked for the cause of this noise, and saw the ball flying rapidly, headed straight for the boys. I stuffed the sausage in my mouth as quick as I could, and was filled with an energy I had not known in all my childhood. I leaped for the ball, trying to save my bros, and became stretched out in midair from my head to my toes. I used my baseball instincts to grasp the ball, and my other arm to shield me from my brief fall. I landed with the winning ball in my hand, and was celebrated as a hero all across the land. We cheered and rejoiced in this moment of perfection, and I, for one, finally had a legendary ball to add to my collection. To wrap it all up, we left to dine at a feast fit for kings, for nothing could fill up our stomachs like some Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yep, that's how it happened right there. There. Oh, just on time too. The cops are here.
Oh, I know. It's warm enough.
Wait, guys. Whose car looks best?
Wait, What was the score to the Warriors game?
Yeah.